If you need motivation, you've already lost. Because the moment you need a reason to move, it means you've forgotten the humiliation. Real ambition doesn't get triggered by pretty quotes, epic music, or Instagram coaches. It moves because it's angry. Angry about wasted time, angry about settling for less, angry about watching idiots win while you're too busy finding your purpose. Motivation is what they sell to the weak to keep them dreaming. It's a psychological head pat, comforting for a second but useless in the long run. It's emotional placebo for people who still want to feel good before doing what needs to be done. Have you ever seen a shark read a book on swimming? Exactly. Ambition doesn't need inspiration. It moves like a primitive instinct. You grow or you die. The guy who wakes up every day needing to remember why he started already forgot. And when you forget the reason, you start sabotaging yourself with excuses dressed up as strategy. It's not the right time yet. I'm still working on the idea. No, you're just too damn comfortable. Discomfort became a speech, not your reality. And maybe that's your biggest problem. Your life isn't bad enough yet. You can still take it. You can still swipe the credit card. Someone's still bailing you out. And as long as that's true, you'll keep believing motivation matters. It doesn't. What matters is urgency. And urgency can't be manufactured. It's born from shame, from anger, from powerlessness. The question was never, what motivates you? The real question is, what humiliates you? Motivation has become a show, a product, an emotional performance where the point isn't to act, but to feel like you're about to. That's why it sells so well, because it's comfortable, because it's pretty, because it gives you the illusion that it's okay you haven't started yet. After all, now you're inspired. But the truth is harsher. Inspiration without execution is just aesthetic relief. A massage for the ego that keeps you exactly where you are. Psychology already gave this a name. It's called substitute gratification. When your brain gets a little hit of dopamine just for consuming something related to your goal, even if you never take action. Planning without doing. Watching productivity videos without leaving the chair. It's the mental equivalent of watching a gym video on YouTube and thinking your muscles are growing. It's addictive because it lies. According to psychologist Oliver Burkeman, modern culture has turned self-help into a form of emotional theater. And in this theater, it's not about changing, it's about looking like you're changing. And that's where the danger is. The more you consume motivation, the more tolerant you become to failure. Because modern motivation is built on noble excuses. You have to love yourself before you act. Wait for the right moment. Only move when you're ready. These aren't wisdom, they're traps. Stoic philosophy, especially in the words of Epictetus, already warned, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Motivation that makes you overthink before acting is a sweet poison. And the biggest proof of that is this: the more you need it, the less you believe in yourself. When motivation fails, and it always does, there's only one thing left: instinct. That force that doesn't ask permission to exist. It doesn't need logic, validation, or pretty words. It's animal, brutal. And that's exactly why it works. It's not inspired, it's desperate. It rises from the buildup of failure, from the quiet shame of someone who can't stand to look in the mirror and see the same coward as yesterday. The real turning point never comes with background music. It comes with pain, with humiliation, with rage, and sometimes with hate for yourself, for your own excuses, for your own paralysis. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio talks about the importance of emotion in decision-making. Contrary to popular belief, it's not reason that drives our choices, it's feeling. And the more intense the emotion, the more likely it is to push us into action. That's why real urgency doesn't come from positive thinking. It comes from built-up pain, from being sick of your own bullshit, from that breaking point moment. Like author David Goggins says, one of the modern icons of self-discipline, when you're motivated, you do it when it's easy. When you're committed, you do it even when it hurts. The truth is, instinct is what's left when the luxury of motivation runs out. It doesn't need a schedule, an app, or a color-coded planner. It just needs truth, a clear sense of what's at stake. And when that hits, when you realize life's passing by, the window is closing, and you're no longer full of potential, just late, that's when the body moves without asking the mind. Because instinct gets something that motivation never will. It's not about being ready, it's about being starving. The biggest prison in modern life doesn't have bars, it has comfort. It's warm, it's got Wi-Fi, next-day delivery, and even gives you digital rewards for every mediocre task you complete. It's a smart system. It doesn't stop you from growing, it just gives you endless reasons to delay. Comfort is tricky like that. It doesn't hurt enough to force you to change, but it never truly satisfies either. It numbs you with stability while slowly draining your courage to act. And so you stay, because things aren't that bad yet. Behavioral psychologist Barry Schwartz wrote about the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the more stuck we become. Life works the same way. The more easy routes you're offered, the less likely you are to pick the one that demands effort. And behind that paralysis, there's a brutal truth. You still have somewhere to fall. You still have someone to lean on. The problem was never a lack of opportunity. The problem is having too many emotional escape hatches. Parents who bail you out, credit cards that split the bill, excuses that still sound convincing. As long as there's somewhere to hide, there's no real reason to run. Nietzsche once said that humans can endure almost any how if they have a why. But the comfortable man doesn't want a why anymore. He wants distraction, he wants delay. He wants to feel like he's moving without actually going anywhere. And that's where the most dangerous kind of self-deception kicks in. Fake productivity. Courses, checklists, mind maps, all just ways to avoid facing the truth. You're not taking action because deep down, life is still just comfortable enough that you don't have to. And that's the hardest paralysis to break. The one that doesn't hurt, but also never lets you live. There's a kind of poison that comes wrapped like a gift. It's sold in colorful books, motivational videos with epic soundtracks, and quotes that fit perfectly on a coffee mug. That poison is pop self-help, and it's quietly sabotaging an entire generation. Because instead of challenging you, it comforts you. Instead of saying, get up and move, it says, it's okay if you can't. And that softness, disguised as empathy, is what keeps people locked in cycles of powerlessness. It's not about healing, it's about keeping you obedient. Psychologist Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, never intended for positivity to be used as a painkiller for reality, quite the opposite. In his studies on learned helplessness, he showed that when someone is repeatedly exposed to situations where their actions don't make a difference, they learn to give up, even when a way out exists. Shallow self-help teaches this in disguise. It pretends to empower, but actually convinces you that waiting to be emotionally healed is more important than pushing through discomfort. And in doing that, it numbs the very people who needed a wake-up call. Kierkegaard's philosophy warned us, the greatest danger is not that a man believes something false, but that he believes something meaningless. And believing that pretty words change lives is exactly that, meaningless. Because real transformation demands conflict. Growth requires friction, and no feel-good quote is ever going to replace the internal war of facing your own cowardice. Self-help that soothes too much is like a warm blanket in a burning house. It's not a solution, it's an escape. And the more you consume it, the harder it becomes to leave the role of victim and step into the mindset of a protagonist. The worst kind of sabotage doesn't come from the outside. It's not the economy, it's not the government, it's not the algorithm, it's you, stuck in standby mode. It's the version of you hiding behind a well-designed spreadsheet, an unfinished book, or a plan that sounds smart, but only exists to delay the inevitable, the moment you actually act. Because as long as you're overthinking, you don't have to move. And while you're not moving, you can keep feeding yourself the illusion that you're getting ready. But those who spend too much time preparing to live end up forgetting how to live. Carl Jung once said, "No one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And in today's world, that darkness has a name: rationalized procrastination. The kind that hides behind logical arguments to justify fear. The kind that wears the mask of caution but is born from pure cowardice. Psychologist Timothy Seikl, an expert in chronic procrastination, says that constant delay isn't about time management. It's about emotional regulation. In other words, you don't put things off because you're disorganized. You do it because there's something you're feeling that you'd rather not face. And while you avoid it, time keeps slipping by. Real growth starts the moment you stop negotiating with your own mediocrity. When you finally realize that too much planning is just a fancy way to do nothing. That endlessly polishing an idea is just the alibi of someone who's afraid to fail in the real world. Life doesn't reward perfectionism, it rewards presence. And sometimes what you're lacking isn't clarity, it's shame. The courage to admit the problem isn't confusion, it's avoidance. And that avoidance, dressed up as strategy, is exactly what turns potential into waste. Maybe what you need right now isn't another video, not another book, not another plan. Maybe you just need to face, with brutal honesty, the question that's been haunting you in silence. If I keep living exactly the way I am, where is that going to take me? Here's your practical challenge. In the next 24 hours, do something you've been putting off for weeks. Doesn't matter if it's small, doesn't matter if it hurts. What matters is that you break the cycle. Not out of motivation, not out of inspiration, but out of disgust for stagnation, out of respect for your own time, because no one's coming to do it for you. And the longer you delay, the more you disappear. And if this video felt like a mirror, if it made you see something you've been avoiding, then leave a comment saying what you're finally going to face. Share this with someone else who's been stuck waiting for the right moment. Because sometimes, what someone needs isn't a new idea, it's a rupture. And if you want more content that challenges you instead of just comforting you, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave a like, not out of politeness, but to make sure this message reaches someone who actually needs it. And maybe to remind yourself that today you finally started moving out of standby mode.